This is Mac OS Ken.
Evercore is still in the Apple. A look at Tim Cook's time in China. And Goldman Sachs addresses Apple Card concerns. It is Thursday, the 19th of October, 2023. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by SimpliSafe. Save 40% on any new system with a Fast Protect plan at simplysafe.com/MacOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Evercore analyst Ahmed Darianani is out with thoughts on the September and December quarters for Apple. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote, looking at services, iPhone sales, and maybe making fun of Nikkei. Apple 3.0's Philip Elmer DeWitt says the analyst was mocking the Japanese business publication. Basically, Nikkei is said by Darianani to be calling for flat sales of iPhone for calendar year 23, despite perceived weakness in China. While the call for flat iPhone units is consistent with Evercore's own view, Darianani points out that Nikkei has been wrong before. According to the analyst, the Nikkei runs a story on iPhone production each year, although in the past they have run stories on production cuts that did not end up being accurate. So is he saying Nikkei is often wrong about iPhone and could be this time too? Or is he mocking the publication, as Apple 3.0 says? Either way, assuming flat sales for iPhone, the analyst thinks iPhone revenue grew about 3% in the September quarter and will grow about 6% in the current quarter. Credit for that goes to the higher entry-level price for iPhone 15 Pro Max in the analyst's estimation. He doesn't know that sales will be flat, by the way. While acknowledging shorter wait times for iPhone 15 in China than the rest of the world, Darianani says it's possible we could see a little unit upside from continued share gains in China and India. Backing away from iPhone, services are looking good to the analyst. The way he sees it, revenue for that segment should surprise to the upside in both the September quarter and December quarter, with App Store data showing a sustained acceleration and advertising channel checks pointing to a continued recovery in digital advertising. Darianani has an outperform rating on Apple shares. He has set Evercore's price target on the shares at $210. We're hearing a lot more about what Apple CEO Tim Cook was or is doing in China. I told you yesterday of the CEO's quiet journey to the Middle Kingdom, a trip that the South China Morning Post says happened last week. Actually, though, it sounds like it just started last week and is still ongoing. At the time of the first report, all South China Morning Post knew was that Cook had visited one of the company's retail locations and dropped in on a video game tournament. Now, a few sites are filling in the blanks around those events, starting with a high-level meeting. A piece from Bloomberg says part of his trip included a visit with China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao. The message of the Wednesday meeting: Apple is on China's side, and China is on Apple's side. The piece says the minister told Cook that China welcomes Apple, along with other multinational companies, to benefit from the country's market and engage in win-win development, according to a statement from the Chinese ministry. Such assurances stand against a backdrop of possible problems for Apple in China. Among those are perceived weakness for the iPhone 15 line in China versus the latest offering from Huawei. Reports that some government agencies in China have banned the use or even possession of iPhones at work, and a move by the U.S. Commerce Secretary to ban dealings with a couple of Chinese AI chip startups, as well as their subsidiaries. Bloomberg refers to the trip as a charm offensive, though one can do more than just be charming. A piece from Apple MOSK clues us in on another of Cook's errands. checking in with a supplier for Apple Vision Pro. This may be a case of wanting to believe for the site. While Apple CEO reportedly visited a Luxshare facility, accompanied by Luxshare chairman Wang Lai-chun, Apple and Luxshare do have more business than just the mixed reality headset. That said, Luxshare is the prime assembly partner for Vision Pro, according to the report. Additionally, the piece has local reports indicating that the company is ready to begin manufacturing Apple's special spatial computer. While Apple has made a lot of money in China, the company's CEO has pledged to give some back on the current trip. The same Apple Must piece says Cook also announced a 25 million yuan, roughly $3.5 million US donation to the China Rural Development Foundation to help support Chinese farmers, students, and communities. In making the announcement, Cook is said to have said, "We are committed to supporting education programs across China and providing technical support to farmers and student groups because education can change the lives of many, create opportunities, empower communities, and support the next generation." If you glanced at an Apple news site or financial news on Tuesday, you may have seen a story about Goldman Sachs wanting to get out of its consumer lending businesses. That would include a credit card with GM, as well as the high-interest savings accounts and credit card business it has with Apple. It's nothing we haven't heard before. The story's got a lot of play, though, partly because Apple, and partly because they hit, coincidentally no doubt, on the same day Goldman was said to announce its September quarter earnings. That did come with the customary Q&A with analysts, giving analysts an opportunity to ask the bank how it really felt. The question was asked, and some might say answered, though Apple Insider referred to the response as a dodge in its headline on the story. Asked about the tie-ups with Apple and GM, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon was quoted as saying, "Our partnerships with Apple and GM are long-term contracts, and we don't have the unilateral right to exit those partnerships. So our focus at the moment is on managing them better, getting rid of the drag, and bringing them to profitability. And we're making progress, both in the way we run them and against the cost base that we put against them. We'll continue as we go forward to work constructively with our partners and examine what's best in the long run for Goldman Sachs, but our core focus is on reducing the drag over the course of the next 12 to 24 months and ensuring we operate them better." Maybe not the most in-depth answer imaginable, but I don't know that I would call it a dodge. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Simply Safe, the right way to protect your home. If a home security system is something you've been considering, there are lots of reasons to consider Simply Safe. There's the customization. You pick just the elements you need to keep your home safe. There's the whole home protection. Smoke detectors, flood sensors, security cameras. Cover as many bases as you want covered. There's the ease of installation. I had my sensors, keypad, and base station up and running on my own in well under an hour. There's the fact that U.S. News & World Report named Simply Safe the best home security system of 2023. And there's this great deal. For a limited time, save 40% on any new system with a Fast Protect plan. Visit simplysafe.com/macOSKen. simplysafe.com/macOSKen. SIMPLI. That's simplysafe.com/macOSKen. There's no safe like Simply Safe. TF International analyst Ming-Chi hit medium midweek with his expectations around the Mac. Put simply, they're not pretty. According to the analyst, MacBook shipments are expected to decline by approximately 30% year-on-year to about 17 million units in 2023. Current challenges for the MacBook are said by the analyst to include declining work-from-home demand and the potential waning consumer appeal of Apple Silicon and many LED. Is it waning consumer appeal for Apple gear, or a need to stretch budgets that are already stretched pretty thin? Well, he did say potentially waning consumer appeal. Demand for the new 15-inch MacBook Air dropped significantly after the back-to-school period, according to the Post. While that doesn't sound surprising, it does appear to have been surprising to some. The analyst indicates that shipment forecasts for that model have been revised downward by about 20% or more this year. Boy, the more you look, the more you see, huh? Or maybe that should be the more you watch. After burn-in and buggy keyboard talk for iPhone, word of an issue with Apple's latest chronometers. According to a piece from Mac Rumors, there are complaints from Apple Watch users on Reddit, on the Apple Support Community website, and on the Mac Rumors forums about a flickering issue for some Apple Watches when Always On is on. Apple seems to be moving fast on this one, acknowledging the issue in an internal service memo shared with Apple authorized service providers. While the memo does not say which models are affected, the report says complaints seem to center on Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2. Addressing the issues with the authorized service peeps, Apple says they should not repair the affected devices. Instead, the company tells repair people to tell customers to keep their Apple Watch software up to date. Mac Rumor says that suggests that a software fix is in the works. Surprising news this week around Apple TV Plus. A piece from Deadline says the Cupertino streamer and Skydance Animation have severed ties. Run by former Pixar head John Lasseter, the partnership was meant to include at least a couple of features. While the first of those, Luck, did hit Apple TV Plus in August of last year, the second, Spellbound, will not turn up on Apple's streaming service. The report says Apple is giving the project back to Skydance Animation. Deadline expects the studio to land a new deal on the project pretty quickly. The rest of Apple's dealings with Skydance Media remain unchanged, according to the report. That includes the ongoing series, The Big Door Prize, and Foundation, as well as an upcoming comedy series with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. It also includes upcoming features such as The Family Plan, The Gorge, and Mayday. No clear reason was given for the dissolution between Apple and the animation studio. The closest Deadline came to offering one is pointing out that the Cupertino company is making other kinds of films, notably Killers of the Flower Moon, which opened globally tomorrow. And finally today, only partway through its run, the Apple TV Plus series Lessons in Chemistry has received a sizable honor. Apple Insider says the Critics' Choice Association Women's Committee has given the series the seal of Female Empowerment in Entertainment, or a Sophie. According to the report, the Sophie awards outstanding films and TV shows that authentically depict the female experience through compelling, female-driven narratives. It makes sense that this would get that. For those not watching, the report says the series is set in the 1950s, when a young, aspiring scientist named Elizabeth Zott is fired from her lab after discovering she's pregnant. She takes a job as a host on a cooking show and winds up teaching her audience more than just recipes. The piece says the series received a perfect score based on the evaluation criteria used by the CCA Women's Committee in determining Sophie eligibility. Apple Insider says the recognition highlights the series' dedication to showcasing and celebrating women's empowerment in the entertainment industry, as recognized by the CCA Women's Committee. And it's not even close to done yet. The third episode of the 8-episode series drops tomorrow on Apple TV+. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Simply Safe. Save 40% on any new system with a Fast Protect plan at simplysafe.com/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.